Good morning, Alex. How are you?
I'm very good, very good. How are you?
Very good, my friend. Very good, thank you.
Good. No, it's such a pleasure to host you on this Business Worth and Mindset podcast. So very kind of you to come and grace us with your presence. So really appreciate it. So
My pleasure, Alex. Thank you for inviting me. It means a lot. It really does.
yeah, thank you, because you've got an incredible story. So I thought it'd be good for our listeners to sort of tap into that and your wisdom as well. So because it's as you know, the power of stories to inspire people as well, and that's what this podcast is all about. So I thought initially we would sort of pick it up by just following a bit of your journey from the beginning to sort of take us through your journey and from the beginning to where you are now, and within that we can tap into specific areas to sort of look into the challenges and the successes and the lessons, and how our listeners can get to be inspired by that as well. So if we could start it off that way, just take us through your life story and your journey.
Okay, so where do we start? I think I want to start, Alex, by saying that whatever story we create in our lives, it's very important to understand that it's just a story. It's just a story. But isn't it true that we, rather than becoming the director of that story, that film, we actually become the main actor? We get so immersed as that key character, and we think that is us, that defines us. We think we are the John Wayne. I'm showing my age here, I suppose. But we are that central character rather than, no, you're the director. And if you don't like a particular scene or a chapter in a book, change it.
Brilliant.
So putting that in some context. So my story, which is a true account of events, but nonetheless is just a story. It kind of goes back to when I was 8 years old and my mother remarried. She married a guy that lived next door to us, and we uprooted. So I was from an inner city council estate, really loved that kind of earthy, industrial, tightly knit community. We were very, very, very poor, but we were happy. I was with my mother and my grandmother, and we had a little black and white mongrel dog called Rocky, and I had a football. That was it. My world was complete. My world was absolute bliss.
Wow.
And a year later, when I was 8, my mother married the guy next door, and things changed dramatically. So we moved away from the inner city council estate. We moved out to the countryside. Well, I was a country boy, and I hated it. I hated every second of it. And what happened was I'd been took away then from not only what I'd been used to in my formative years, but also away from my grandmother, away from Rocky, and this whole sort of separation from everything I've known. So I wasn't allowed to listen to music anymore, and I loved music, always loved music, particularly ballad music. The soothing effects of that, even as a child. And particularly I loved football. I was football crazy. Me and Rocky would spend hours on the backyard. He was the defender, trying to stop me scoring, and his way of defending was to try and pop the ball with his teeth. So my job was the striker to put the ball between the clothesline and the end before he got to it. And then when I put it over the line, I had to run and get it back before he then chased the ball and got it again. So anyway, I'd been taken away from all this. But that was nothing, Alex, compared to what was to follow. That was emotional. To start with, it got worse, because what happened within a very short space of time, I noticed the guy, and I labelled him the beast. His attitude changed. And I'm going to use a word now, which is a very, very strong word. And I'm very mindful of the words I use in my stories and in my language and in my life, because words have energy.
Yeah.
Evil. The guy was evil. His depraved acts of abuse, violence, and basically started to pick on me.
Wow.
Not with sort of undermining emotionally, but also with physical violence. And my mother used to step in to try and protect me, for which she'd get a beating. This was on a daily basis.
Wow.
And what happened over a period of time was she'd leave him, and then he'd promise to change, and she'd go back, and it was like a yo-yo. Now, what I also found out at the age of 10 was that my mother was a secret drinker.
Oh.
And she smoked heavily. And I latterly found out, as the years and the decades went by, that was her crutch, that was her survival mechanism to cope. And so what happened was, throughout this torture, this lasted for 6 years.
Yeah.
And then there was this particular incident where I went to an all-boys grammar school. I'll rephrase that. I was on the register at an all-boys grammar school because I never went. I went to, we left the countryside after 18 months, and when we went back to the inner city area, so I kind of felt that I was home. But by this time, Alex, 18 months later, my head was screwed completely. Wow. And I'd learned the art of survival in its most basic, crudest form, to the point where I can remember is I will kill. Because that was my mindset. It was like, it's almost back to the caveman days of the saber-toothed tiger, eat or be eaten. It was that primitive, that instinct, but there was something inside me that said, no, I will kill before I'm killed. And I had one target in mind for this, and it was the beast. I would kill the beast. So from a child, from the age of 10, that dominated my thoughts. But that was interspersed by kindness and love from womankind. My mother never lost her love. My grandmother never lost her love. And, at an early age, from sort of 10, 11 years, I started discovering girlfriends, whatever girlfriends mean at that age. But there was a softness, there was a warmness, there was something about it that says, wow, this is beautiful. So the contrast of that compared to the mindset of I will kill, very, very stark and very polarized. And in my autobiography of Emerging from the Forest, I put a chapter in, a part of the book that says the black and white years, because my world had become either black, as I saw it, or white. There was nothing in between. That was it. And black became a metaphor as I'm on one of my wild drinking sprees, and I will self-sabotage, I will put myself to the sword, I will destroy everything that I've built up, particularly people that show me love. Because what had also happened, Alex, is I developed this, it was self-hate. It was self-hate, because I'd been told from an early age of 8, you're nothing, boy. You're disgusting. You're vile. Nobody will ever love you. You're pathetic. And in those early formative years, I have an old saying that if you stay in the barber shop long enough, you'll have your hair cut. Which is probably a bad metaphor for you and I, Alex, because
absolutely.
But anyway, this was part of the belief system that I was creating based on raw instinctive survival, knowing that one day I would redress the balance for this sickening existence that had been bestowed upon my mother and me. What happened was, it was a very amusing situation that led to things coming to a head in 74. What had happened prior to that was, my belief system that kept me going, other than the love of womankind, was the belief, the fervent belief that one day I would wear with pride the red shirt of Nottingham Forest Football Club.
Amazing.
That kept me going.
Yeah.
March 74, Forest lost 2 games in the space of 48 hours, ironically, to teams that play in black and white.
Wow.
On the 21st of March, they played away at Goodison Park in an epic cup replay against Newcastle United. Newcastle United got through. Newcastle United then went on to Wembley to meet Liverpool and got beat 3-0 in the final. There's a whole backstory around that, but that's not, here's not the time or place for that. So they'd lost to Newcastle, who play in black and white. 48 hours later, there was away at Craven Cottage in Fulham's ground in London, who play in black and white. They lost 2-0. My world was destroyed. I can remember, even now, I smile, Alex, as I look back. I'm barely 14 by this time, 13 and a half. And it's like words like betrayal, disgust. How can you do this to me? This is my thoughts towards Nottingham Forest Football Club.
Strong words.
Yeah, I give you everything. I'm devoted to you. I'm committed to you. And you do this treachery. You lose 2 games in 48 hours. My world has been blown apart. And despite all the violence, all the emotional torture that I'd softened, and I use that word loosely, by drinking, because I found out where my mother's secret stashes of whiskey and sherry were, and boy did I hate whiskey. Just the smell, the taste, but I took it for the hit to take the pain out of of what I was experiencing. And it took the physical pain out, Alex, but it couldn't take out the emotional pain. That was deep rooted, and that was festering. To the point where I developed these whole limiting beliefs and self-sabotage, and anything that was good that came then into my life in a white phase, I had to destroy it. I couldn't cope with it. I didn't deserve this. I didn't deserve this love of this beautiful girl or in latter life woman. I didn't do it. No, I'm rubbish. I'm vile. I've been told that. I know I am, but I know how to survive. So I was like a rebel with or without a cause. I didn't really care. This is what I'm going to do. And more importantly, I'm going to fight for the underdog. And I remember using those words, not even knowing what they mean. I'm a kid. I don't understand it. But you pick up words, don't you? And you throw them around like confetti. And I think we all do that, in everyday life. Quality is a word that we bandy around like confetti. Okay, so what does quality mean? Well, quality is quality. Well, no, what does it mean? Well, well, no, I don't know. What does it mean? So what happened, Alex, was on this fateful Saturday night after they'd lost to Fulham, I thought, I'm going to end it all. I can't cope anymore. I can fight and I can fight and I can fight, but the one thing I truly, truly believed in, other than my mother, was Nottingham Forest Football Club, and they betrayed me. They'd stabbed me in the back by daring to lose 2 games. I mean, it was ludicrous thinking. But this is the power of beliefs for you, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I ran away that night. I managed to escape from my bedroom because I was kind of confined to barracks all the time. So when I used to get home from school, supposedly school, I used to be on the streets playing football or, with a girl or what have you at a very early age. But then I used to go back, inverted commas, home, what seemingly was like a school day. So I was straight upstairs, cold strip wash in the kitchen, straight upstairs, bread and jam for my tea, and that was it. Up till the next morning. It was literally like being in prison. So, but then I had to go to the shop at 7 o'clock every night. And I was called down. And I knew that had happened. This particular Saturday, the 23rd of March, I was called down half an hour earlier. But it didn't matter because what I'd done, I'd already created my dastardly plan. So I went into the bathroom and I got a razor blade and I put it down my underpants, knowing that when I'd gone, I was going to go somewhere. And there's an area where the mining village where next to me was called, was some caves where all the coal lorries used to go from. We called it Dicky Didos, and it was very desolate and nobody'd ever find me. And I didn't want it to be in the bedroom because I didn't want my mother to find me. But I knew what I was going to do. So I ran away. I was called down to go to the shops. I wasn't going to no shops. I was about 2 miles away. I ran to Dicky Dido's and I was going to do the deed. And something very, very, very profound happened in that moment, because I sat in that sort of shallow cave, isolated away from it, and with the razor blade over my left wrist, Alex, ready to do the deed. Bearing in mind, I'm 13 and a half years of age.
Wow.
There's nobody in that cave. And I'd got my back to the wall. And just as I'm about to swipe my left wrist, something pushed me forward and I fell to the floor. And I mean hard. I can still recall it now. I still recall it now. And something happened there, Alex, that hadn't happened for years. I cried and I cried and I cried. Because part of my conditioning, inverted commas, from the beast was, shut up, big boys don't cry. What are you, a girl? Are you a sissy? These were the words. And it's like, and I believed it. And I believe that big boys don't cry. In fact, not only that, you don't show weakness. You get in first, you win at all costs, and you kill or you'll be killed. That was it. And when I played football, my mentality was the same. I was actually in life quite a carefree, loving child. All I wanted to do was kick a ball around with Rocky. And listen to pop music, ballad. That was bliss. That was it. I was loving. I was creative, and all that had been taken away. I'd gone now from that creativity being stifled to, and when I played football, that manifested. I wasn't an attacker anymore. I was a defender. And by the way, my attitude is, you ain't going to score because I'll break your legs if you go past me. This was my thinking as a child. You did go past me, I will break your legs.
Wow.
And that was my mindset, because I'd gone from being a creative flair player in life and in football to being a cynical dark destroyer at the risk of stealing Nigel Benn's title, handle there with Dark Destroyer, who was one of my heroes, middleweight world champion Nigel Benn. And anyway, so this happened, Alex, and as I hit the floor, and I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And as I got up, I felt different. And I looked for that blade, and that blade wasn't there.